Webb Simpson. Thanks for joining us for a few minutes. You're making your ninth start here at the RSM Classic with a lot of strong history to back that up with 4 top 10s and 8 starts, 2 of which runner-ups, including the near miss last year. Just some thoughts on what makes this event, courses, et cetera, so special and good for your game.
Yeah, I think just being on the coast, near the coast, I've always loved coming here, loved going to RBC Heritage. I grew up, going to Wilmington, North Carolina. I just feel like while it is a work week, I just feel at ease on weeks like this a little bit more than normal. Just love this area. My family's coming down this weekend, so we always kind of make it a family affair, and love both golf courses. The first year they went to 2 courses. I couldn't play that first year, but heard great things about Plantation course, and obviously always loved Seaside course. But I think a week like this, the wind typically blows a little bit. You got to drive in the fairway, and I've always just felt comfortable playing both courses, and obviously had a couple close calls,
Right.
but have good feelings. Even though I lost in a playoff last year and lost to playoff to Ben Crane in 2011, I have great memories here.
And you're coming off of a great season, 19-20, with your 6th and 7th wins, and off to a really good start this season with 2 top 10s, both of which in majors, including your 10th last week at Augusta. Just to kind of assess the state of your game as you're heading into the week.
Yeah, I feel like what I've done better the last couple months, or I guess month and a half, is drive it better. You obviously have to drive it well at a U.S. Open to play well, and last week and even Zozo were probably my 2 best driving weeks I've had as a pro. So haven't really changed a whole lot. Just working on hitting it a little further, slowly, not as quick as Bryson's done it, but seeing some good results. And, anytime, obviously, you drive in the fairway, you're going to have better weeks. And there was some good rough at the Zozo Championship that I was able to avoid most of the time. And last week, at Augusta, the rough was longer than normal. Guys were having a little bit of issues out of the rough, and I drove it pretty straight. So, obviously at Seaside, Plantation's a little more open, but Seaside, you have to drive it well, especially kind of out in the open where the wind blows. There's some trouble out there. So, I'm excited that part of my game has been solid, and if I do that well this week, I think I'll have, at least give myself a good opportunity.
Okay, and I've got one last question, and then we'll take a few questions from our guys on the line. Obviously, with Davis, the tournament host, just a unique, special event. We had it in yesterday, and he talked about, you get to see him glowing, how excited he was having the star power and the people that just don't miss this tournament. You kind of talked about it, but just how special this is, especially with Davis's name attached to it.
Yeah, Davis has always kind of looked after me. He was my favorite player growing up. He went to UNC. My dad, mom, everybody went to UNC in my family. So I was always a huge Davis fan for many reasons. And, when I got on tour, he's always been great to me, giving me advice when I needed it. I played for him in 2012 at Medina. So I've always been, a massive Davis fan. And he's so generous. I think what most players think of him as is someone who's really generous and humble. And, he's done so much for the area here, the island, the golf courses, and the event. And I know Davis Love Foundation is just so proud to be part of this event, and it's made RSM proud to be part of this event as well. And so I think guys play here, maybe their first time, they're curious, what is it like? But from my knowledge, players have great experience here. I tell people who have never been, I say, you got to come. It's one of the best weeks of the year in terms of the area. It's just a nice area, great facilities, and so I'm happy for Davis that the field is as good as it is.
Right, yeah, they come here and then they move here.
Exactly.
Like. So, all right, well, we'll jump in and take a few quick questions. We'll start with Steve DeMeglio with USA Today. Steve?
Webby, players talk about the week after the Masters, you have to decompress, and Hilton Head is a good place to decompress. I'm curious, do you have to decompress as much after last week, considering the fact that there were no fans there last week, and maybe the buzz energy wasn't zapped from you as much?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I felt pretty tired as normal on Monday, Tuesday. Maybe not as much. I think the fans do have something to do with it. not in a bad way. Just, there's a little more going on when there's, tens of thousands of fans every day. You got to kind of zero in and focus a little more on what you're doing. And so there's definitely, we were missing that this year. But Augusta does bring stress on you, I think, more than any course we play, with the undulation, the greens, the water around so many holes. And it's the Masters, so there's just a lot going into it mentally. And so Sunday night, sometimes you're so tired you can't sleep. That's how I was Sunday night after. I wasn't in contention, but, I had a good 4 days, and Sunday was a challenging day with the wind coming in, kind of mid-round. So I had a hard time sleeping Sunday night just because I was exhausted. And last week we woke up, at 4 o'clock, 3 out of 5 days. So less rest last week than normal. But yeah, this week, I feel a little more relaxed just being on the coast, I guess.
And when you got there this year, does your mind go back to how well you played last year, or does it go back to the playoff loss?
No, it goes back to, having a chance to win. And I hats off to Tyler Duncan. He birdied 17, 18 in regulation. He birdied 18, on the second playoff hole. And so when you lose to a guy who does that, I actually left last year. I wasn't that disappointed because of the way he won. Now, if I had bogeyed a couple holes coming in, I would have been very disappointed. But I felt like Sunday last year, it played tough. I think I shot 3 or 4 under, and I felt like I played well. Birdied 15, 16. So I'm definitely not living in the past in terms of the playoff loss, but more of just, hey, I've had chances to win here. I'm going to use that as confidence to help me this week.
And the last one, are you playing again the rest of this year?
I'm done. This is it.
So do you put anything different going into your final tournament of the year? Is there anything different as you go in?
I think there's a temptation to kind of live in next week, where I don't have to think about golf. But I'm really trying to push myself this week to be fully here, fully present, and, know that a break's coming. So I'm going to, hopefully give it everything I have for one more week.
Thanks, good man.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to Brian Wackworth off Digest. Brian?
Hey, Weber, just a couple of quick questions. Just curious what you made of last week from the standpoint of, Dustin setting a scoring record. There were a bunch of other scoring records last week as well. Do you put that down to time of year? Just that's the direction golf is headed, and I'm curious where you think it goes from there in terms of the Masters and Augusta.
Yeah, Brian, I think the biggest indicator last week of why the scores were low were soft greens. Paul and I, my caddy, we've talked about it for a long time that any week, no matter how long the course is or how windy it is, if greens are soft, scores are going to be low. And, example, I made eagle on Thursday on 2. I landed a 5-wood a yard short of the hole, and it went to 5 feet. Normally, if I land it there, it's going to one hop into the patrons. And so there were so many situations like that where, 15 on Friday, I landed a 5-wood a foot from the hole and it stopped. Or, 4 feet from the hole, but it released 1 foot. So I think the scores were indicative of the soft greens. I also think a little bit golf is heading that direction. We're seeing scores or records broken a lot, but I think that's how sports naturally evolve. I mean, I think athletes in the NFL, NBA, NHL, these are faster, bigger, more capable athletes than ever. And I think that's a good thing. I think people are figuring out sports science. And I just think sports are evolving as they should. Nicklaus's generation were probably better and hit it further than Hogan's generation. And so I think you're seeing that a little bit, with Dustin shooting 20 under. But I said at the start of the week, if conditions are what we think they're going to be, the Tiger and Jordan's records in jeopardy of being broken.
Thanks. Just a quick follow-on, kind of a different question. How different was your preparation going into last week versus a normal spring Masters, and what adjustments did you make? Did it have an impact on maybe how you prepare going into next year?
No, I didn't prepare before the week any differently. I kind of wanted to get on site before I started thinking through what am I going to do differently this year than I normally do in April. But I would say the biggest difference for me and for most guys was the speed of the greens, especially Thursday, Friday. Some of these downhill putts that we normally have that are lightning fast, guys were leaving short, and it was just so hard. I mean, that was my 9th Masters, so I've got 8 years of tournament play there where I know certain putts and tendencies, and you kind of had to relearn the feel and the speed of the greens as you're going. I actually felt like I putted better on the weekend when they got faster just because it was more of what I'm used to there.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, well, it looks like you're a free man. We appreciate your time, and best of luck this week.
Thanks, Dougie.
Thank you.